Good morning. So, we will be talking about canonical text, The Godfather as one. So, we have been discussing Citizen Kane as a canon, and now we will talk about The Godfather and what makes The Godfather such a big canonical text. Now, I will just recap, I will just repeat what we have been talking because it has been quite a while since our last class. So, how are canons formed? One of you already gave a very good response to it, that canons adhere to a certain set of standards, cinematic brilliance, commercial success, but not always. Okay, there has to be some magic combination. You know, there is a term called je ne sais quoi. It's a French term which I don't know. I can't exactly point my finger at them, but there is a mysterious enigmatic quality about this text. Okay, and we are basically talking about cinematic text, so we are not literature. So, let us confine our conversation to cinematic text. Now, etymologically, that is the root of this word canon is derived from the ancient Greek word, and I am not giving you the Greek word, but I will give you the meaning, and it means measuring rod. That itself should tell you, you know, there is a standard, there is a benchmark sort of measuring rod against which other works are measured or set against. In literature, those texts, or in cinema, those texts which are worthy of academic study. Okay, so, this is something we should remember, and membership to canons ideally is fixed for a long time, but is not necessarily permanent. Ranks are always fluid, entries are strict, but extremely fluid. There may be a canonical text which may exist on that list for 20 years, and then one day it may find itself out of that text. So, there is every possibility. So, there is no guarantee that once a canon, always a canon, but there are certain texts and certain cinematic texts which have their places assured, and Citizen Kane and The Godfather are two such films. So, canons comprise, and I am quoting in Matthew Arnold, in the words of Matthew Arnold, the great British critic and poet, the best that has been thought and said in the world. So, the best of all, and who defines this best? We will look at that. So, canon, in other words, is high culture. Cinema may be popular culture, but canon is still is, if it belongs, a movie belongs to a canon, it is high culture. Fellini's works, Ingmar Bergman's works, they are not low culture, they are not low bro, right? Do we agree to that? Okay, so, Bergman, Fellini, Bertolucci, they are definitely works of art. Okay. Cinematic canons, now literary canons are formed and they have a certain standard, there are certain parameters. For example, if you award a book with a Booker or a Pulitzer or a Nobel, okay, there is a canon there. Okay, the writer belongs to that elitist set. How are cinematic canons formed? Of course, award bodies. You have been recognized by Palme d'Or or BAFTA or Academy, so you are part of a canon. Yes, there are flukes also, but let us not think of flukes. Canons are formed by influential critics also, and we have seen Cahiers du Cinema and its critics, Andre Bazin, and even those directors who were critics, for example, Chabrol and Truffaut, who were eminent critics. Andrew Sarris, who is the American cousin of these French critics. Pauline Kael, many people credit Pauline Kael of America for raising the art of reviewing to the level of art, to the practice of reviewing to the level of art. Previously, reviewing was just a very general kind of a job, where people would most often talk about the heroine's dresses and the hero's hair and the makeup and sets, example, all those superficial things. In India, much of our film criticism is centered on these things. Film is good, tell me why. Okay, film is boring, Why did you get bored? So now there is some kind of awareness about film review, but there was a time when for a very long time people would just take out their personal grudges on the director or on the actor. You don't like XYZ and you would trash his films regardless of its quality. There were some directors about whom many of the critics were extremely prejudiced. So this is a director who has made a good who has made a movie, any movie, it will invariably get a great review. That is how film criticism was done in our country for a very long time. Of course, I am not saying that Pauline Kael was entirely unprejudiced. If you read biographies of her, you will find that her work too was extremely jaundiced in favor of certain filmmakers. For example, she was always extremely favorable towards Robert Altman, okay, Martin Scorsese. Okay. So, there were certain people who she just whatever they would make, she would praise them to the skies, but Pauline Kael is still defined standard. Film scholars, for example, you have David Thompson. Have you heard of David Thompson? You must, you know. If you go to the US library, for example, and Vijay, I am talking to you, go to US library and there is a history of American cinema by David Thompson. Okay, please go through it. David Bordwell is another eminent film scholar. David Thompson is basically a film historian, and he has written a phenomenal book called Have You Seen? Very accessible. It is not a review, it is not a collection of reviews, but a very personal take on 1000 great movies of all times in all languages. So, extremely erudite work, but very, very personal, very subjective, phenomenal reading, okay, extremely well written. Roger Ebert, okay, writer, and Roger Ebert, of course, great movies volume 1 and 2. And then you think of critics, writers of Sight and Sound magazine, for example, and they also form canons. Then who are the other people or bodies that can form a canon? Organizations like AFI. What is AFI? American Film Institute and British Film Institute, BFI. So, these are the bodies that canonize works of cinema. So, canonization does not just happen because you and I or some random blogger starts liking a movie, okay, and then they give some, you know, like a teenage writing in the middle of the night, my list of top 10, Fight Club number 1, okay, better than The Godfather or Citizen Kane, okay, and second movie, I liked this actress a lot, Monica Bellucci always figures, you know, or some such nonsense. So, you know, those are the top 10 films, okay. So, things like that, okay, but canons are a very serious study, a very serious effort, and they have to be respected. Of course, as I was telling you previously also, canons are not infallible, canons can be prejudiced, people have criticized the formation of canons, of course, it is there, but by and large we do go by the canon, and now otherwise it will become all a very random study. So, now coming to The Godfather, why Godfather is such a canonical text. Now, this is the back story. Mario Puzo wrote the draft of a movie called The Mafia. Of course, he had already written The Godfather, okay, and there is only one Godfather and not Godfather 1 and 2. I am talking about those days in the early 70s. So, he had gone to Paramount Pictures with a draft of a screenplay called The Mafia, and he submitted it to Robert Evans. He was the head, the chief executive of Paramount Pictures. Robert Evans turned it down. Okay, Robert Evans, who was once married to the beautiful Ally McGraw. Ally McGraw, does she mean anything to you? She is the star of Love Story, okay, one of the soppiest and most sentimental movies of all time, Love Story. but she was a raving beauty, and Robert Evans was once married. So, that is not his only claim to fame. He was also a very formidable executive of Paramount Pictures, and he could not see any merit in the mafia. He said that there was a movie called The Brotherhood, then recently released, with Kirk Douglas, Michael Douglas's father. It had recently bombed, and it was another gangster picture, and he felt that the gangster genre had outlived its life. Okay, no, people are no longer interested in this kind of cinema. Okay. However, the book remained on top of the charts for so long, and there was a clamor to buy it and to buy the rights, and Mario Puzo was extremely keen that Paramount produce it for him. So, Robert Evans felt that perhaps there may be some sense in making this movie, because the novel is such a huge success, so why not. And he bought the rights of The Godfather. He commissioned Mario Puzo to come up with a more refined version of the screenplay. However, the problem was in finding the right director. Peter Bogdanovich, high from the success of The Last Picture Show, yeah, he refused it, and we will see why they refused. Sergio Leone was another great director who turned it down. They did not want to make it. Evans felt that he had his misgivings about Coppola. Okay, Coppola did not have a great success record. So, do you know of any other works by Coppola before The Godfather? After Godfather, I know you will mention Apocalypse Now. Before The Godfather, what had he made? Paleri, Rehan, the Filmwalas in this class. What had he done? He was a very well respected filmmaker who was not extremely successful, and we will look at some of his films. What were those films? I am sure that none of you, those titles you have ever heard of before this class. Okay. So, now Evans felt that anyway Coppola is a good choice, although he does not have any success ratio, because he is a guy who could smell the spaghetti. That means Italian flavor of the novel. Coppola is the only one, a true blue Italian who can capture the essence of the novel. Francis Ford Coppola, born in 1939, and prior to The Godfather he had made 3 films: You Are a Big Boy Now, 1967, Finian's Rainbow with Fred Astaire, which was a musical, and Rain People in 1969, which was a road movie, and all commercial disasters. But his work was appreciated. It was felt that generally this guy knows his craft. So, that was his reputation. He had studied at a UCLA Film School, and the influence was there. Unlike Martin Scorsese, who had gone to famously, see, all these new wave Hollywood filmmakers, they had gone to, and there were only 2 major film schools those days, UCLA or NYU. Okay. So, Scorsese etc., they come from NYU. Okay. So, therefore, when you watch their movies, you feel the New York essence, the New York flavor. Coppola, Los Angeles. Okay. But there was a reputation, in spite of his commercial disasters, he had won an Oscar for the screenplay of Patton. Patton is a war movie starring George C. Scott. Okay, it is a very well known war movie. In 1970, he had won the Academy for the best screenplay. Okay, so he knew, that guy knew how to write the story, the screenplay, and he knew how to direct a movie. So, people were, but Coppola himself was not interested in taking up the Godfather script. And why? Because like all new Hollywood directors, he felt that he should be an author. And you remember, an author is a person who is in complete control of his product. Remember that? He should be allowed to choose his own material, his own team, and he should have complete control, in other words, especially on the writing of the film. and they didn't believe these new Hollywood, new wave Hollywood directors didn't believe in adapting materials. Okay, because they felt Fellini didn't do it, Bertolucci didn't do it, Godard and Truffaut don't do it. Why should we? We are their disciples. We come from their school. Okay, so we don't have to. But he considered himself an artist. He said, I was into new wave and Fellini, and therefore I didn't want to do this. But at the same time, his dream was to establish a facility studio, an alternative studio called Zoetrope. Have you heard of that? Okay. Zoetrope Pictures, that is Coppola's own studio, Zoetrope Movies. Okay. Coppola's father, I am just giving you, his mother was an actor, a performance artist. Coppola's father was a flutist. He also did a bit part in The Godfather first. And if you watch New York Stories, which is an anthology film, I keep on talking about New York Stories, Woody Allen, Scorsese and Coppola. So, in that anthology, Coppola's contribution is a segment called Life Without Zoe, okay, where the father of the family is a flutist. So, Coppola makes, what I am trying to tell you, immensely, intensely personal films. He calls himself, he called The Godfather the greatest home movie ever made. It has his sister, who is Coppola's sister? Which part did she play in the movie? Well, Diane Keaton cannot be his sister, right? Yeah. Connie, Talia Shire, okay, who later became Rocky Balboa's wife. Okay, so Talia Shire is Coppola's sister. His father Carmine did a bit part. Sophie Coppola is the kid who gets baptized in the movie. So, it is a home movie, right? One of the gangsters. Yeah, but not a very major part. Okay, this is Zoetrope, you know, I am just digressing, but Zoetrope is actually a cinematographic instrument which produces the illusion of motion from the rapid succession of static pictures. This is what it looks like, and Truffaut in 400 Blows pays homage to Zoetrope. He wanted to develop this technique, and there is a scene where the little boy goes, you remember that? Okay. Did we do 400 Blows with you? And it starts rotating. That is Truffaut's homage to Zoetrope instrument. Now, Coppola's recurring motifs. I am just assuming that all of you have watched the first and second Godfather, but let me just revise and then I will ask you something, ask you to do an activity. So, recurring motifs in Coppola: individual's conflict with himself as well as with the society he lives in. Think The Godfather, conflict is as much internal as external. We have been talking about conflict as a plot device, right? Apocalypse Now, extremely internal. The Conversation, all his subsequent films, if you watch them carefully, you will find a recurring motive. Questions of guilt, responsibility, loyalty, that is very important. Loyal to whom? Okay, so that is a recurring question. Moral ambiguity, we will talk about it. All his characters are in shades of grey. Another import of the new wave influence, because before that it was all good and evil. Now, this is very important. In Coppola, we find celebrations and traditions and rituals. Watch the movie, there are 2 weddings on screen. Of course, there are several weddings, but on screen we actually get to watch 2 weddings. What are those? Which are those? Connie's wedding and Michael's wedding to whom? Apollyon. Okay, good. Then there are deaths. Okay, so Apollinaire dies, Sunny dies. Okay, they all, yeah. So that is another ritual. Godfather's funeral, there is a funeral, childbirth and baptism, and everything is celebrated, ritualized. So, we feel as if we are a part of this particular family. So, recurring motive. Now, fame, reason for fame. First reason is the family, Corleone clan. The Godfather is epic in scope. It is a huge movie, not just in terms of length, but the scope itself is so much huge. You know, it covers births, deaths, rituals, weddings and everything. It is in the tradition of films like Gone with the Wind, Ten Commandments, unfolds like a Greek tragedy. You look at its structure, very linear. I am talking about the first part, extremely linear, almost built like a Greek tragedy and leading to denouement. There is an exposition, there is a climax, there is a denouement, final catastrophe. One reason for its popularity is nostalgic yearning for a not so distant past, but something that can never be retrieved. Then again, a very universal element of ideas of families coming together. All of us have families. We do recognize the importance of family traditions and rituals and importance of celebrating things together. So, here we have people dining together, celebrating together, mourning together, and we identify with the clan. Again, the emotions are very universal: greed, betrayal, thirst for revenge, and how power passes from one generation to another right before our eyes, right. So, that is what I meant by Greek tragedy, Greek construction. Okay. It is always a conflict between, or a face off between father and son. We have done literature, some of you are aware of Oedipus. So, the son always takes over from the father. Any questions here? I have been talking too much, too long. So, any questions, any comments here? Okay. Universal wisdom. Movie is full of universal wisdom. Godfather tells his son Michael, the man who comes to you to set up a meeting, that is the traitor. Okay, and very true. People who try to mediate, they are the ones who most often plunge the knife into you. Okay. Like most blockbusters, it was all things to all people. The other day we were talking about Casablanca, right? Intertextuality. Casablanca is not one movie but several movies. Who said that? Did Roland Barthes said that? Or did Umberto Eco said that? Good. Okay. Good. You remember that. Umberto Eco told us Casablanca is not one movie but several movies. Likewise, if there is a formula, this is the formula, that blockbusters mean several things to several people. There is something for everyone. And watch a blockbuster. Citizen Kane is a canon for another reason, right? It becomes a canonical text for what reasons? Reasons which are quite different from The Godfather. Techniques, yeah, his audacity, okay, and complete doing away with the conventional narrative structure. Here Coppola actually does not do that. He tries some innovation, some techniques, some new techniques, but he does not do away with universal emotions. Okay. Therefore, Godfather will always remain a greater hit. Yeah. Three Idiots, I am told, is the biggest hit ever made in India. It has surpassed all other records. DDLJ, Sholay, etc. Three Idiots. Do you think Sholay is not just one movie but several movies? Do we agree to that? It is not just a vendetta movie. Sholay is many things to many people. There is something for everyone. Do we agree to that or not? Even if you do not have the stomach for violence, the gross violence, still you can watch Sholay. Do we agree to that? Okay. If you do not like violence, skip those parts and watch Basanti. Okay, or The Jailer. Okay. If you are the sentimental kind, you can watch Sanjeev Kumar as many times as possible. If you are, the more heroic, adventurous kind, Jay and Viru are there for you. So, it is several stories, several things for several people. That is one hallmark of a great commercial success, a blockbuster. Okay. Coppola for the first time, and this is he achieved a feat of creating heroes out of gangsters. Before that, yes, we had Public Enemies. I am not talking our favorite Depths movie. I am talking about James Cagney version. There was Scarface, okay, but they all die a dog's death on screen. Okay, so they were not canonized heroes on screen. They were still gangsters who had to meet a terrible death. Here, the Godfather does not meet a terrible death. His power continues, his dynasty continues. Okay? Coppola creates heroes out of gangsters. Don Corleone, for all his faults, is still the moral center of the film. Why do we call him moral?
He has a code that
he has a code of conduct which is never violated. No drugs and no drugs. Okay. Yes, he's so family and family honor before everything. So that's another very recognizable trope. Okay, and something that contributes towards making The Godfather such a big blockbuster, such an important canon. Of course, there have been imitators, but no one did it better than him. So, family honor and family before everything else. John Cazale, Brando, James Caan, and of course Al Pacino, who can you comment on the dressing now? Vijay, my question is to you. The dress, the way these men are dressed.
Yeah, they're all they follow a certain fashion which shows class and elitism.
Yeah.
And the hat also shows a certain English influence to it.
Okay.
To be a gentleman.
Okay. The bow ties.
The bow ties. And even the police costume has a.
Well, that's Al Pacino. Now, my question, yeah. So, she says there are three men who are almost dressed alike. If you have watched the movie, you will know. So, my question now is to you, Sandeep. Al Pacino stands out by way of dressing. Okay, so, what is he playing in the movie?
He's returned from the war.
He has returned from the war. Okay. And why does he stand out even in terms of clothes? Because he is an outsider in that family. Yeah, he is the boy who is not supposed to be inducted in the family business. Remember, he is the boy who is not supposed to become one with the family. He is a part of the family, but the Godfather never wanted him to take over the mantle. Okay, Sonny is the boy. Therefore, he stands out initially even by the way he is dressed. He is a war hero. He has come back today and he is participating in his sister's wedding. Other men of this family are all dressed alike because they are one. But Michael Corleone is different, we are told that from the beginning. So, pay attention to clothes. Okay, clothes tell you a lot of things. The way the Godfather is dressed throughout the movie, especially at the beginning of the story, and the way he is dressed when he dies amidst tomato gardens. Okay, there is a difference because now he is more retired, he is leading a retired life, and you will see Michael Corleone, how he changes, how the way he dresses up changes. Now, he is in his army regalia right now, military regalia. Later on, when he is just dating Kay, he is dressed something in a very different style, one of those upper class boys. But by the end, when he assumes the mantle, he starts dressing up like his father. Pay attention to these little elements. The movie also got Oscars for its costumes. Memorable lines, of course, no one can forget. I will make him an offer that he can't. I mean, these dialogues have come to become a part of our everyday conversation. One reason for fame, Sholay, dialogues are still remembered. DDLJ, people remember the dialogues. Yeah. Therefore, all great movies, think Gone with the Wind.
Frankly,
Frankly, my dear, and As God is my witness, I'll never be hungry again. Yeah, tomorrow is another day. Scarlett O'Hara. Memorable lines which we remember even today. Here is looking at you, kid. Yeah, play it again, Sam. So, memorable lines. Say hello to my little friend. Which movie? Scarface. See? Okay. I believe in America, and that's the way the movie begins. American dream. Okay, and subversion of the great American dream. Godfather is a great subversion of the big American dream. That's my family, K, not me. Who says that?
Michael.
Reference to context, yes, Michael. And when does he say that?
At the wedding.
At the wedding, when he is still the innocent, the outsider. And what happens at the end of the movie? Closes the door on her face. By the end of the second Godfather, she is kicked out. Okay. He is very much his family, much more sinister than his brother and his father. Don't ever take sides against the family. Who says that?
Michael and the Godfather.
Michael again. Good. You know the movie. Claim to fame, another reason, and this is a recurring motif in most blockbusters. See, women's pictures don't make that much money. They may be artistically acclaimed, okay, but movies that thrive on masculine codes, okay, they always make it big. Now, so Godfather is nothing if not a monument to the world of authoritarian patriarchy. Men make all the decisions. You don't even know what Mrs. Godfather is called. Okay? She is never a part of the business. She is always in sunlight or in the kitchen or in the dining room. Never a part of those closet rooms where Godfather conducts his business. Okay? You will never find women there. Godfather shuts Kay out. The second Godfather. Who is the Godfather in the movie?
Michael.
Okay, and who is the hero of the film? Brando or Pacino? Al Pacino. And why do you call Al Pacino the hero? Give me one reason. He gets the girl. Okay. What else?
It's his progress.
It's his journey. Good. It's his journey, his progress, his his point of view. So we are we are taken through the story with him, along with him. Okay, we sympathize with him because we know he is just a sweet little boy like Ranjit, and now he has turned into something else. Okay, so when he began, he was a very sweet, innocent boy, and now he is something else. Okay, so we don't condemn him, we don't judge him. Okay, we sympathize with him because we know the circumstances which turn him into what he finally becomes. So he is the hero. Okay, Connie's unfortunate husband. He is always a hanger on. He wants to be included, but he is just thrown a bone that you get a living from us, but you are not part of our family, because after all you are a damad of the family. You know, you are nothing more than, you are not our blood, and you will never. So never take sides against the family. Although he is a son-in-law, brother-in-law, but not the son or the brother. Okay, you are always out. Even Tom Hagen is never taken into confidence when it comes to the most serious things. So loyalty to the family, and Michael doesn't even trust Tom Hagen, that is played so brilliantly by Robert Duvall, when he decides to assassinate the heads of the rival gangs. He is never told. Memorable line, and when I watched the movie first time, that must have been some 22 years ago, and I could never forget, could never get over actually Luca Brasi's famous lines, Godfather, I hope that their first child be a masculine child. Okay, he is invited to the wedding of Godfather's daughter, Connie, okay, and he is honored that he has been invited. He is the trusted, loyal bodyguard, and I hope the first child is a masculine child. It matters a lot in a patriarchal system. Okay. Godfather to Johnny Fontana. Okay. A man who does not spend time with his family can never be a real man. Johnny Fontana is that miserable singer, yeah. And this is Callow when Michael sights Apollina first time. In Sicily, women are more dangerous than shotguns. Go figure, whatever it means. Okay. Respect. I don't know what I have done to earn your disrespect. He tells it to the guy who comes asking for help. Okay, so you have to respect me. Respect is extremely important. Now, I am giving you an activity. Take a break, 2-3 minutes, discuss it amongst yourself. Give me a list of the great scenes. I am assuming you know the movie, even if you didn't watch it last weekend. I am just assuming you know something about the movie. Make a list of the great scenes. Okay, time up. You two at the back. Yes.
I like the scene when Kay confronts Michael Corleone about Connie's husband's murder, and he says, "No, I didn't kill him."
I didn't do it. Yeah.
And after that, when she still watches him, and then two people who come in and pay his respect to his daughter, I like that scene.
You like that scene, his transformation. Good. I want you to. Yes. Rehan and friend. Rehan, yes.
One was Michael Corleone and Robert De Niro murdering in
Little Italy.
But sepia color.
Yes.
That's one. Then Connie's husband murdered and Michael Corleone.
Strangled.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the baptism scene.
Yeah. The baptism massacre. Yes.
When Michael says, "I would never make my sister a widow," and the very next scene he kills him, that hit me.
That's very ironical. That's his transformation. What he has become now. Yes. You guys.
The scene where the film executive wakes up with his prized horse Khartoum's head in the
My
middle of-
favorite scene. Yes. Yes. Anything else?
There's a hospital scene where
He wheels him out. Yes. Do you get? There's a hospital scene where Michael wheels his father out because he suspects that his father is going to be, the villains are going to take their chance in the hospital. Okay. And the police, they are all aligned with the rival gangs. So there is no protection at the hospital. And he, nurse, you got to help me. You have to. That's my dad.
Right after that scene, there's a scene where a policeman attacks Michael and breaks his nose.
Yeah.
Then later in a discussion with the family, he voices his desire for revenge. And Sonny laughs and says, "This life is not for you." He says, "You need to get close enough to feel the brains on your suit." And then later on, Sonny gets blood all over him and people shoot him dead.
Yeah. Connection. Anyone here?
The wedding of Michael, when it's contrasted against the first wedding we see, it's very simple and it's more involved with people, not on the business level but at more personal level.
Okay. And also notice the intercutting between the lights and shades. Okay. Outside it's all sunny, bright, and a normal wedding taking place in any regular family. Inside it's all closeted, it's very dark. Okay. So that's the way Gordon Willis, I have mentioned Gordon Willis is the cinematographer of the movie. Okay. And Coppola and Gordon Willis would have endless quarrels over how to cinematograph, how to photograph the movie. Okay, because they couldn't see eye to eye, but it's one of those collaborations that worked in spite of their differences. And so impressed was Coppola that later he hunted him out for The Godfather II also, and Willis said, "I don't want to work with you," but then he made him an offer Willis couldn't refuse. He paid him unheard amount of some money. So set pieces or scenes which are universally acknowledged. The horse's head in bed, and that was a real horse. I mean, don't think it was a dummy. They brought it from meat makers or butcher's shop and actually placed. So it was real blood and a real head. Okay. Wedding scene outside, and the way it intercuts with the dark closeted chambers of the Godfather while he conducts his business. Pacino shooting a cop in the restaurant. Okay, it marks a major, that's the climax of the movie, the first one. You know, a total change, a major transformation happening in the look at the way he trembles before that. That's he's an army man. He must have killed several people, but not, you know, the enemy was someone else, the other. Here the enemy is within, and he kills a cop. That's his first murder. Okay. Pacino wheeling Brando out of the emergency room, as you just mentioned. James Caan, Sonny, the hot-headed brother, gunned down at a check post. Phenomenal scene, wonderfully done. And the grand finale, the montage. Baptism and intercuts with shooting down of the heads of the rival gangs. And here montage, it may be a homage to Einstein, but still it is not ideologically the same, because Einstein used montage to depict a certain ideology, the powerless, the weak versus the powerful. Therefore, the powerful are at the top of the staircase and the weakest people are, one is even a cripple, remember, a maimed guy, okay, just on the crutches in Battleship Potemkin. Okay, but here it is the montage is more like a bravura editing device, a narrative structure, okay, and the fight is between equals. So, it is not ideological. So, that is the way it has been interpreted. Okay. Fame and memorable scenes, Pacino and Brando, and when Brando realizes that Michael could be his true heir, he realizes that Sonny was his son who was never meant to be, okay, but this is the son who has all the capabilities to carry on the. So, Michael's transformation from a war hero to, you know, this. So, this is a perfect symmetry while the Godfather is being paid homage and when Michael takes over, and this is symmetry, this is called a framing device. We begin the movie with respect being shown to the Godfather, we end the movie with respect, same kind of homage being paid to the new Godfather, and look at the similarity of scene, the way he has shot it. Okay. Fame, other reasons for, you know, one we have been talking about the reasons claim to fame when the movie was being shot or pre-production, before it was shot, but once the movie was shot, okay, and once the movie became such a success, then the myths and legends that developed around it, and one was how Brando got that look. So, very often it is said that Brando stuffed his cheeks with cotton balls, not really. He stuck raisin blobs to the back, to his back teeth, and that is how he got that bloated look, you know, that thick, heavy set jaw look. The baby that is baptized is Sophie Coppola, the great director of Lost in Translation. Okay, Johnny Fontana's the struggling singer, the character is based on Frank Sinatra, okay, and Henry Cohen, the Columbia president, he was never in favor of casting Frank Sinatra in his epic movie From Here to Eternity, that is a war movie, and Frank Sinatra very badly wanted the part and he had mafia connections, and therefore Henry Cohen, the executive, was coerced into casting Frank Sinatra, and that is something Mario Puzo must, because he had his mafia connections as well. Okay. So, that was an inside story. Best picture was one of them, screenplay adapted material. So, Mario Puzo and Coppola shared the honors, and Brando for the best actor, which he famously declined because he professed sympathy for the way the Native Americans were treated by America, and then he sent a fake Native American, a fake Indian girl to accept and decline his honor. So, that was a big drama, big tamasha that he created, and later he was criticized a lot for that. Any comments? Pacino, remember, was never wanted for this role. Everyone was against him except Coppola, the only guy who believed in Pacino. And now if you watch the movie, can you believe, can you imagine it without Pacino? Okay, there is no one, I mean, there was a point when they actually wanted Robert Redford for the role. And you can well imagine what he would have done to the role. So thank God he turned it down. Pauline Kael called it the best gangster film ever made in this film. So of course canonized. We will continue with the movie, but tomorrow also with the discussion. Let us take a couple of minutes to watch the beginning of the film, just to refresh. Now why do we like this scene so much? And why do we begin the movie with this? Brando's hand, imperial, majestic, and his enormous head. Why should we begin the movie this way? I believe in America, famous lines. What is so great about the American dream? Anyone can make it big in America, that is the idea. Okay, I am an Italian American, I believe, but I believe in the American dream, American code of justice and equality and law, justice for all. Okay, that is one of its legal tenets. Okay, justice for all. But here, did he get the justice? No. His daughter's tragic story. And why does he come to the Godfather? Here you will find justice no matter what. Okay, so that is what makes him such an important person. And respect and honor. So from the beginning we are told respect and honor are the key, and key words here, and they run throughout the film. Okay, loyalty, respect, honor. Okay, and therefore it makes it such an important canon. We will continue with the discussion tomorrow. Thank you so much.